All right, Sam, welcome to the show. Thank you for your time. And for the listeners who can't see, what in the world is that piece of machinery behind you?
Well, let's see. On this side, that is my inversion table that I hang upside down because I have kind of a stiff back, and then I think there's some dumbbells on the other side. So
Wow.
this is my home office slash gym.
I want to talk specifically about the type of real estate investing that you do because you are not a physician, you are a real estate investor. And the interesting part, you actually see that you have a degree in chemical engineering and then into a
That's true.
master's into finance. So it's funny now, and now you invest in real estate, right?
Who knew? Right? I mean, isn't that life? Like the circuitous journey that it takes us on. But I was actually pre-med, funny enough. My dad's a surgeon. Definitely wanted me to go into medicine. Um, but no, I'm happy kind of, what I'm doing, I suppose. But it's been a journey. And yeah, started out in engineering, started out in tech, and got into real estate full time about 13 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about that journey. So you started off probably alongside of what you went to school for, but what was the introduction for you into real estate?
I think it was similar to what happens to a lot of people that I meet that are real estate entrepreneurs is they caught the bug, right? Like for me, it was buying my first house. I think that's a somewhat typical thing. And I knew enough. I was very interested in investment generally and had done other investing. Um, and I knew enough that, hey, I'm looking for an opportunity when I buy my first home. It was not long after I graduated from college, and we bought a home that we were basically the second owners. It had been built in like the 1950s, and it had old shag carpet, and we pulled it up and refinished the floors. And I mean, I was swinging a hammer and doing all the work. Actually, my wife and I, and we were able to kind of leverage that when we sold it, and make for us a meaningful amount of money, and then kind of leverage that and start buying other real estate. So I was kind of doing that on the side as I was in technology in the San Francisco Bay Area, and would buy a single family property here and there, and kind of wash, rinse, repeat there for a few years.
So single family starting, and then when was what was the change? What was the progression to, are you still in single family, or what was the progression out of that?
Yeah. I didn't make the change as soon as I should have. Let me put it that way. There's a lot of inefficiency in single family investment. I mean, of course, there's huge corporations now that backed by Blackstone and other large private equity and hedge funds that are trying to make a bit, they're making a business out of single family home investment. But the the issue is for smaller players, you're buying a home here and then you've got another home that's 5 miles away, and just the inefficiency of kind of trying to service all of these roofs, we would call them, that are all separated by a lot of distance and different situations and neighborhoods and all the rest of the things that go into that. So I did that for a number of years. I started to move a little bit more into like land entitlement and development, but was really looking for something that, again, I could have some efficiency in, but also I'm pretty risk averse, and something that I felt like would do well in down cycles as well as bull markets. And a lot of reading, listening, and kind of researching led me to mobile home parks. So we bought our first one in 2017, and since then that's all that Saratoga Group has purchased, and we've almost sold off all of our single family homes. We got a handful left, but pretty much sold off that portfolio.
Tell us a little bit about your first mobile home deal.
Yeah, first one we bought is actually the only one that we've sold. So our thesis is there's not a better risk-adjusted investment that I found than mobile home communities. and they outperform over time as well. So our thesis is we don't want to sell them. That being said, we've sold one. It was the first one we bought. It was in California. I now live in Tennessee, and I don't want to own anything else in California, basically. So we don't need to go down that rabbit hole. But anyway, so that community, in some ways, violated some of the things you want to avoid, especially on your first deal. It had a lagoon, meaning private sewage system. It had a private well. Those are all kind of risky sorts of propositions. I knew something about that because I lived kind of out in the country a little bit. We were on a well, we were on a septic, and engineering background. You know, we're in a space where it would be easy to, I would say, to take advantage of our residents. And let me explain that a little bit. If you think about the cross-section of a typical resident in a mobile home community, they probably own their own home. Most of them do. They probably have it paid off. They don't have a payment on it. They own it outright. And so their monthly allotment towards housing is the lot rent that they pay to use as the owner of the community. And because their home is there, and it's quite expensive to move it. I mean, today it's probably $15,000 to $25,000 to tear it down, hook it up to a truck that'll tote it and is licensed to do it, set it up again, put a new deck, you know what I mean, all that sort of stuff. And in a sense, that resident is a little bit stuck. Not totally, but a little bit, because if you raise the rent $100 instead of maybe something more appropriate like $35, is that extra $65 enough to convince them that, oh, you know what, for 65 more bucks, I'm going to pull my home out of here and pay $20,000? Right. Like, they're probably not going to do that. And anyway, I just make that point because we're sensitive to that, and we don't want to make living in our community a hardship. We do increase rent every year, but you know, that's part of being a responsible owner. I mean, that's kind of what happens in the market and what happens in our society and economy. But we also don't ever want to take advantage of their situation. But we want to be able to do that of our own free will and choice, and not have it mandated by some sort of government entity that thinks they know better, and is actually going to make it less in it. Right? I mean, rent control. I mean, that's a great example. But you know, that's part of the thing that we have to think about. If we're in a place where there is rent control, there's all sorts of studies. I mean, economists, red, blue, and purple, will all tell you, like 93% of economists will tell you that if you implement rent control, it is bad for affordable housing, and it makes it less available, and it drives quality down, because then the landlord doesn't have an incentive to improve the quality. We'd rather invest in these communities, do new playgrounds, pave the roads, bring in new houses to make it a better place to live.
The way that the law, not laws, but the regulations you lay out for your parks, do you allow homeowners to rent their houses out to other people? Are they to basically become investors and they can rent their house out to somebody else?
We had that scenario in a handful of situations, but that is one of our rules, is you cannot sublet your home to somebody else. Because then you really start losing control of, you know, who's in there, and are they engaging in, you know, bad activities,
not taking care of
it. Not taking care of it gets super, super difficult to manage that. So we don't allow that.
The industrial world of self-storage, one of the big benefits of that is the eviction process, right? The lockout, and then sweep, you're gone, put their stuff out. Very simple, nothing like having somebody leave their homestead, like where they're living. How does that work for mobile homes?
Oh, now we're getting nuanced. Brad. That can be, right? No, you caught it there. That can be pretty complicated if somebody owns their own home, and then they're not abiding by the rules and regs, or maybe they're not paying the rent, whatever, and they're then evicted, but they left their home. Well, now we got a situation, right? So again, this is state dependent, but depending on the state, there's just rules that laws that you have to follow, a process you have to follow, where you can file for an abandoned title, because at that point, again, state specific, but there's going to be a certain amount of time that if they just leave their home there, then you can file for that. You can get title to the home and resell it. So
interesting, just like a car.
Kind of